Today's Wednesday, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2021. Time is 9:09 a.m. This is a special meeting. It's our monthly elected officials meeting. Attending, of course, are most of our elected officials and also Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Fillios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. First business item, sponsored by Bill, and it's the new email testing and training system. Bill?
Okay. You want to come up and? I apologize for being late. I've had some problems with Verizon. Yeah, they said we'll fix this. We'll fix this if you call this number, and it's just been a nightmare. So I apologize.
Go right ahead, Grant.
Verizon for all of us, including last night, right? Sure.
Yeah.
One night. Yeah, what this is a email testing and training system. Basically, what's kind of started this is iCrimp, our insurance provider, is having to pay out a lot of money in ransoms to people who are getting themselves infected. You know, we've had some local. You guys are all familiar with what happens when a cyber ransom attack happens. They encrypt all your data and then dangle the keys in front of you and say, pay us money and we'll give it back. The number one vector for that is email. And iCrimp, as such, is offering a 1% discount to counties if they will engage in a program that both trains and tests users. Basically, here at Kootenai County, our systems are somewhat complex as far as that goes. They've offered a program, but it doesn't work for us. So in order for us to qualify for this discount, we have to go out and buy one. So at the end of the day, this thing's a wash by the time we put. In fact, we'll be paying a little more than the discount to make this happen between soft costs and the cost to it. That said, I personally believe it's a valuable tool for us to get because it will provide that education. At the end of the day, that's the spirit of what we need, especially for new users. We've got a very, very good group of computer users throughout the entire county. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm coming down and saying that we've got a bad group that's clicking on things all the time. People are so good about letting us know, hey, I got this, I didn't open it. It makes me very proud every time I get those emails from our user base. But that said, we've got new people coming in a lot, and a system like this would help train people on this. So what it's going to look like is we're going to add a little button into Outlook that says fish email, that if someone gets an email that they feel is bad, they could actually click this little, highlight the email, click the little button, and it's going to submit it. And that'll go back to the company, and they'll analyze it and everything, and it'll remove it from their mailbox.
What are the
Well, it all depends on the organization. That's what's interesting about this. The first thing they go for is your backup system to make sure that you can't scorch earth, get rid of them, and restore your data. So once they've got that, then they go for your first. So nobody gets charged the same amount. It's usually based on the organization and what they feel they can get out of them. You know, by the time they're into all of our records, you know, they're probably seeing our premiums to iCrimp. They know, you know, too much about us by that point. So
there are in the private industry. I know one of my is involved in a very large international company, and it is so pervasive there that the company itself sends emails that are decoy emails to employees.
And that's actually part two of this, and that's why.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm here today addressing all the electeds. I've talked to the board about this financially, and we think we're there, and we think we can do this. But what this thing is going to do is it's gonna send out phishing emails that are designed to test people. I don't want this to be a big secret. You know, I don't want to play gotcha. It's not going to be Susie's name posted on the wall because she actually clicked on it when it came out. I think this is something where we could educate the users first and then send out the test emails and make sure that they're going to respond appropriately. Basically, iCrimp will, if we can get ourselves below a 5% click rate, they'll give us the discount. That's what this thing all amounts to. So we send out 1,000 emails, and as long as only 50 people. And really, I'm here to address the electeds today to make sure that you're okay with that. That if we're sending these things out, you're not feeling like it's something that IT just came up with and, you know, sneakily, you know, or heavy-handedly even testing your users.
Without getting into the weeds, what's the reason that iTrim should or may not work on our system?
Okay, so we've got multiple domains around the county. We have a domain that takes care of the admin resources. There's a domain that takes care of the courts because we don't even support the courts. That's a state level system. And then the sheriff's department is on its own domain. And I won't go into the specifics of what a domain is or anything, but that's this. Think of it as separate companies, but we're running them all off of one email system. So to make all these users who are out on the sheriff's domain work, we have this special system that Microsoft builds to link mailboxes so that they work. The problem is with linked mailboxes, KnowBe4 isn't sophisticated enough to understand how those linked mailboxes work. We've tried working with them, and the only offer they've given us is we basically have to manually import our entire user database every time we think there's an update. So basically every time we hire someone here at the county, we'd have to manually import our database every single time, which is ludicrous to even fathom. So we went out looking, we found another program. It's actually it's the same company that builds our email firewall right now. It's best of breed. It costs a little more than if you were to go out and buy KnowBe4, but one of the cool parts about that is it integrates to the firewall, so we'll actually be able to not only on our test emails get metrics, but if we see something come in that's actually legit, and then people start clicking on the button saying, hey, this is bad, we can see where it came from and gain a lot of metrics on how that thing came in, where it went, what to do about it, and mitigate the issues.
From a user standpoint, will it be like an add into Outlook?
Yes, you'll open Outlook, and right along the top bar there'll just be another button that says something like, this is a fish email. You click on that, and it removes it from your mailbox and then does the reporting to the company. It's called Proofpoint. There is. It'll be a lot like the iCrimp trainings that we do for different things that HR has sent out. I would not want it to take longer than 10, 15 minutes maximum because you just lose people's interest at this point. There's several key points you can make on phishing emails and do it quickly. I don't think we need to have people sitting for an hour wasting your time and theirs. The other time, so there will be actual trainings that we can send out doing that. What we can also do is when we send out these phishing emails, the imposter ones basically, if they do happen to click on it, unwittingly, we can do what's called a teachable moment at that point, and then it pops up something that says, hey, maybe you should go watch this 10-minute video. It'll explain why, you should have caught this. Amazon was misspelt when you clicked on this link or something, But those teachable moments end up being a good resource as well.
What's the initial cost and then the ongoing cost?
The initial cost is basically the same as ongoing cost because it's just a subscription model. We're going to be into this about $11,000 annually. The discount, once we add it all up from iCrimp, is about $8,000. So we're somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 net change to operating budget to make this thing happen. They are out there. We've got several projects in front of it right now, but we're trying to prioritize this one because iCrimp wants that 5% click rate result by May 1st to get the discount this year. Unfortunately, we're still negotiating with the company to get the product quoted so that we can buy it, so that really leaves a very small window of time. I have spoke to iCrimp, and they're willing, if we can show them substantial progress on the process, if we were to show them that, then they might give us an extension on getting that. At the end of the day, I do feel this is of high value, so whether we even get the iCrimp discount this year or not, I think it's very well worth pursuing this as soon as possible. So we will try to make that date. Yes, sir.
Mary and I have sensitive sexual assault victims and other sensitive. Do you feel confident that you're secure?
As confident as you can be. I think I gave the analogy the other day at the captain's meeting. The only secure computer is the one that locked in a steel vault, lined with lead, thrown at the bottom of the ocean, and then we still have our doubts. But what I can say is we put a very good emphasis on it. There's 2 points to your question as far as the security goes. First is if it's compromised, can we get it back because it's needed to prosecute? cases and stuff like that. And second, is it safe from prying eyes? And I'd say definitely on both fronts, we're doing better than most. When we compare ourselves, especially to the federal government, believe it or not, they seem to be some of the worst in these cases. But we pay attention to it. When, you know, we had all the attacks at Bingham County a couple of years ago, and you know, obviously the Post Falls thing, we pay attention and we still make adjustments. You know, there's never something that happens where you realize you're invulnerable. Like, I don't know if all of you have heard about the recent scare for Microsoft email systems, the Exchange system. There's a huge vulnerability right now. We found out about it on day 0. You guys went through it. Our email system was up and down all day. That's because we were applying patches immediately and making sure that we got that. That's probably been one of the biggest leaks Microsoft has had in the last decade, and they still feel there's about 82,000 systems worldwide that haven't been patched. So I'm never going to paint a target on this county and say we're doing great, because you're just asking for it at that point. But we do everything we can. We try to stay up on the security bulletins and make sure that we keep that stuff as safe as possible.
So let's move on. Thank you,
Very
Grant.
good, thank you, Grant.
Appreciate it.
I guess, can I say we'll go ahead and proceed? I'll give it a week, unless I hear any objection from any of the electeds, give you time to think it over and everything. Okay, thank
Let's
you.
do it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Barry, Prosecutor Barry McHugh, item number 2, open meeting law training.
So Nancy Jones spoke to me about the potential need for open meeting training. I can't say that I am aware of any specific problems that come up, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that, you know, we can certainly provide that training and answer specific questions that may arise, you know, rather than waiting until we're in the middle of a meeting and have a question that somebody doesn't have an immediate answer for. And I think that the, you know, both open meeting law and public records requests areas are things that every elected has to be aware of and sensitive to in terms of how we conduct ourselves to stay out of the, you know, the issues that, and I see them in my office because it's an area that I have responsibility for in terms of, was there an open meeting violation, whether it's here at the county or in some other local board. So I wanted to just raise that and let everybody know that we're more than willing to do training, whether it's a specific issue or just sort of a broad brush on how things work, executive sessions, you know, posting, all that sort of stuff. And so that's why I'm here. That's why it's on the agenda.
So I guess it's a question for you. It's actually Barry or you, Nancy. Are you guys coordinated, or because you've been doing the training, Nancy?
I've been doing the training for advisory boards, which is where this came up, just to make sure that if people were aware, we didn't know. We've had some new electeds haven't had access to that kind of training. I'm the District 1 representative for the Public Risk Management Association, so just sort of making sure that people know that that's available within our organization.
I think I can has training on that. I've seen a PowerPoint from them.
IAC does some, I've heard this.
Yeah, and the Attorney General does, I think it's annual training on open meetings and does a great job, is there with usually Brian Kane, maybe not so much more since Brian got promoted, but it's always a good discussion, lots of good questions, and so that's also available.
So what's your vision for this, Barry? Do you see yourselves conducting sessions for us, or is it just pretty much on request?
It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Because I think it's mostly, I mean, the electeds or, you know, if they have department heads, I think it's kind of incumbent on people to evaluate the need.
The need.
I don't like filling a need that isn't there. So that's the way I envision it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, then, moving on. Item 3, fiscal year 22, compensation planning and strategy. I'm indicated for this. I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia, our HR director. Go right ahead, Sylvia.
So it's the annual discussion that we're having related to compensation. Closer?
Yeah, get it in as close. I know it's hard, but there you go.
That better?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I wanted to identify our team that has been working on the compensation plan for several years. How did we lose the screen? Okay. So the compensation planning team is Dorothy Cross, Nancy Pluff, Dina Darrow, and Michelle Chiramonte, and myself. And we've been working on this for the past 3 years. The goal of this year's compensation is to look at a matrix for the general pay plan, attorneys, and the chief deputies. And just real quickly, our compensation philosophy is based on total rewards to recruit and retain qualified employees, being able to attract them to the agency, and that's a balance of compensation, benefits, and work life. So our compensation plan strategy is to develop the matrix for those plans as I discussed earlier. And when you look at the analysis that we'll be presenting to you, we based it on time and position, and that's what we've been using for the past 2-3 years. And in that, we wanted to make sure if we're putting those general pay plan employees as well as attorneys and chief deputies on the matrix, that they at least see a 2% increase. And then with the sworn officer matrix, we're maintaining their pay plan that has been in place for several years. One thing we looked at when we did the wage study, the law enforcement, the patrol deputies, everyone except detention got held back, didn't get a step. So we wanted to correct and see what that cost is to put them on their correct step. So that would be consistent, an analogy of how we analyzed it for every employee in this agency. Our proposed 14-step matrices for those plans is 14 years to get from minimum to maximum. So in the first 6 years, individuals would move along the scale, and it's about a 4% increase. And we utilized Policy 120 in the development of this. The other thing is market at 6 years was identified back during the wage study, so we maintained that thought process of paying people at market at the 6-year mark. So then when you get into years 7 through 14, your progression through the steps slows down at a 2.1% spread increase per year.
Sylvia, a question. How did you come up with 14?
Well, we typically see plans like the sheriff's office has 9. We tried to see what we could do with the spread of our pay plans with 45% ranges. And we felt that 14 years was reasonable, that people should be able to get to max by then.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you. Sure.
Yeah, go right ahead.
We didn't, with the sworn officer matrix, we left it at, you have ranges from 9 years, 7, and some are 5. I didn't change that at all for the sworn officers. We maintained your pay plan the way it is. It's just we're developing one for general employees, attorneys, and chief deputies. There are quite a few more employees. It becomes affordability thing that we had to look at. So that's why we went 14 years for progression versus the 9 that had been developed. There's just 500 and some more employees that are under those plans versus the sworn officers. They're all over the place. I've seen them as, you know, as big as, I think it's Rexburg had like a 30-year step plan. Well, no, that's not even practical. You've got to be able to give people some general progression through the pay plan that's reasonable. And then, of course, you have to tack on some COLA increases at certain times as well. It varies throughout the United States. So what we're doing when we develop this, and the cost that you're going to see next, is we are taking, say it's a 12-year employee, we're saying they should be at step 12. So that's where, when you look at the dollars that were calculated and the analysis that Nancy Pluff has done, that's the strategy we took in analyzing a time and position plan for the employees. And here are some estimated pay plan costs. They're unaudited, and we did notice that if you look at the general pay plan, the matricy cost with COLA needs to be corrected. It shouldn't be less than time and position matrix. So in this schedule, so we'll get updated numbers related to that. We just found that this morning. So in that, you can see that we broke down the employee groups and what the time and position costs are using the analysis that we discussed earlier. And then we added loading costs, and then here's your total for a 1-year impact. Then we looked at COLA. And our cost of living adjustment, the index that we used is the CPIW. And that's what we strived for last year, and identified that that represented what is happening in Kootenai County. Okay. So those communities are, those states are Colorado. Hold on. Here we go. I lost it. Colorado, Arizona, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. So those are the states that the CPIW falls in.
What is the CPI?
2.1%.
Unless you're buying a house.
Yeah,
Then it's
and
15.
Some discussions have occurred this morning of
I
the
can
housing
imagine.
market here, and how are we going to manage that and be able to attract employees to come here. So lots of planning we need to do. Then we looked at the elected officials, and when we did the market study, we found that the elected officials were way behind market. And so in this analysis, what we're presenting to you is bringing the elected officials to market based on the wage study, and then also looking at bringing you to market with the cost of living adjustment of 2.1%, and then a COLA-only estimate. And those amounts are loaded, and using our loading rate identified by the auditor's office. So that is the cost for the elected officials on taking you to market. I think it's time to address it. You haven't brought yourselves to market yet, and your counterparts in neighboring counties are making more than all of you, and just like the rest of us, we're all trying to get to market.
Fair enough.
I wanted to talk about employee turnover costs because that relates to retaining employees. Our turnover rate for 2020 was 15.5%. Employee turnover, in analyzing the cost and the impact to an organization, is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times the employee's annual salary. So it's, for us in 2020, it's estimated at $9,131,986, again unaudited. And in that, what I did is there were 131 individuals who left Kootenai County employment. took that, we calculated the average salary of 473, times that and 1.5 on top of that. And so those soft and hard costs related to turnover equate to over $9 million. And those costs range from the employee's salary, any benefit payouts, their supervisor's salary, the HR costs related to recruiting, onboarding, those type of things, and also training costs. And the biggest thing related to that is the institutional knowledge that we lose when those talented employees with many years of experience leave our organization. Also in our turnover rate, I did look at the top 3 reasons of why people are leaving our organization, and it was retirement, personal reason, and salary increases. What we're finding is people move on to another position and are experiencing at least a 10% or more increase in pay to go to another organization.
Yeah, go right ahead.
No, we're below the national average. I'm not sure what 2020 is, but in let me give you that number. In 2019, the national average was like 19%, and we were at a little over 14% in the turnover. But I do not know what our neighboring counties, what their rate is.
When you say 19%, I presume that's across both public and private sectors?
Yes.
Okay.
So our next steps, we need some direction from the board on what strategy you would like us to pursue and continue to analyze. I think the biggest thing we need to look at is making sure there's a matrix for all of our employee categories. I think that's been a goal of the board, trying to do that and put something in place and get that implemented. Once we get that guidance, the comp team can continue analysis and do projections based on that guidance. And if we adopt a matrices for all the other plans, we would update our compensation policy. Something I did want to bring out, mention just briefly this morning, we were looking at how benefits are increasing the employee costs and how our salary increases are keeping up. So our benefits have increased on average 15-20%, and then we're giving on average a 2% increase. So we need to start balancing that out again. So hopefully the board has been very generous in covering the cost of those increases to our health insurance. So we just need to keep all of that in mind when we're working on our total rewards philosophy of pay and benefits for the employees.
Talking about the cost of benefits to employees is increasing to 20%.
There have been last year it was much smaller, but COVID was, brought down our premium costs. But looking at it over time, Dorothy just did a review initially, and we can do a more extensive review, but we're seeing the cost of benefits, the employee portion that they're paying is increasing higher than their pay is. So their paychecks are shrinking.
Thank you.
Bela?
purposes to be able to address that with the applicant and say, okay, the salaries say, benefits are this, so that's really, you're out there in the private sector, that's what you need applicant.
And Dorothy may be able to speak to this
We do that.
but more, because she'll have some experience related to that. We have done a worksheet where we give each of our internal, our employees an analysis of that similar nature. This is your pay, these are your benefits, here's the total value of it. Not that I'm aware of how we created something generically as a recruiting strategy, but it's a great idea and something we probably could develop for you.
If I'm not mistaken, and I don't know if it's on the W-2, but there's a statement we get annually that actually shows the full value of our compensation. It shows the wage and then the additional sum for benefits. So that already exists and we receive it. We get it in the mail. I think it's on the W-2. I'm not sure. Or Dorothy?
Or
We actually haven't done a total comp statement for the last 2 years. We used to send one out. It was separate from the W-2, sometimes.
Right, okay.
We used to send one out. We haven't done one for the last couple of years. We do have a benefits premium sheet that shows the county cost as well as the employee cost that would be very easy to provide to new recruits.
Yeah. Even if we just did it online.
One of the things I've seen done by other jurisdictions is they'll actually calculate that in range and they'll put it in the job description, so you've got your
Oh.
salary, and then plus the added benefits for a total package. It's just something that I think is important to people, and it makes a big difference in terms of attracting applicants.
Right, because we do want them to know that our benefit package is generous, and it's a big component. Where can you go and get a PERSI retirement and a lifetime pay?
There's a value there, and that story needs to be told.
Okay, can we do this?
Yeah, I believe we could put something together.
Okay. Yeah, Dan?
Over the years, this has fluctuated, and more often than not, the boards, over the past 15 years, I've been told, by many boards, they don't believe in it, and I just would like to hear what this board has to say about the concept of cost of living.
Somebody dropped a cell phone. Is it yours, Dan? Leslie, Bill, thoughts?
I'm in favor of it. I think not to give a CPI, especially if it's well documented and calculated, all it does is our employees continue to fall backwards. It's a very cynical way to steal from employees. And I always will want to give a CPI, but it has to be based on something that is realistic, just can't come out of the air. And you've offered us 3 different scenarios, and I like the one that fits Idahoans best, so.
Yeah, I don't think people should go backwards.
Well, you got 3, and especially here, because again, the cost of, particularly the cost of housing is ridiculous. By that, I just don't mean purchasing, I mean even renting. The rents are almost astronomical.
So, looking at the calculations, and I know that they're a little less, I don't see us coming up with $3 million. So that is taking everybody to where they belong in time and position. Can we find out where everybody would be for one step up?
Yes, we can calculate that.
Okay. Because if we can't afford the whole thing, then it would be nice to give them something.
Give them something.
Do you want that with and without a COLA?
Yes, absolutely.
It's important to remember that COLAs are what move the ranges. So without COLAs, we fall behind market.
Right.
So that's an important distinction. So I can give you both numbers, the closest plus one, and with a minimum of 2%, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the same calculation with a COLA.
Yeah,
And we'll
because again,
also-
we have no idea legislatively yet, is that a fair statement, what we're up against?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And we'll also do that same strategy with the sworn officer matrix. So all of them that we presented today will use that same analysis. Because in the cost that we presented to you, it was correcting, some people might have needed 2 steps to get to where they were time and position. And we'll just make sure that they all just at least get their 1 step. Now, in this analysis, if you were at max, we didn't give you an increase. And that was kind of the stand we took last year. But the scale moved because we gave COLA. So if the
Right,
scale
right,
moves with
okay.
the COLA, well, they may be eligible for
The 2%.
an increase, some sort of an increase. And I don't think, we don't have very many
Okay.
that are at max.
Yes.
Is it more the detention side? Almost half on the detention side are about max. So
Dan-
moving the scale is important.
Dan,
that
did you have another
COLA.
question?
Just on the slide that Sylvia put up that addressed the matrices, that one.
That one? Mhm.
And there's a fairly large jump in the sworn officers with the COLA. I mean, that doesn't just reflect the cost of the COLA. Is that also picking up that misstep?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is.
Both.
And also, the reason there's such a disparity between just the time and position and the COLA, you have about half of your staff that are maxed out. So in the first scenario, they don't get an increase, but with the COLA, they do. So that's why it's so much more.
Sylvia, will you be sharing this slide?
I can email the presentation to elected officials, yes.
There was a mistake.
Yeah.
He is incorrect, it should be about 1.9. I made some modifications to the formula to account for the sworn staff moving through their range this year, so that the formula didn't give them twice the raise next year. And when I did that, it adjusted the general pay plan, so I need to fix that. But it's about 1.9 for the matrices with the COLA. 3.4, yes.
Okay.
But I think with I appreciate that the board is having us look at another strategy as well. And because that indicates to me there's a commitment of having some consistency in the way the pay plans
Oh,
are developed
absolutely.
for all county groups, county employee groups.
So Sylvia, what else do you need from us today?
I think that gives us enough to go back and, poor Nancy. Nancy's doing all the heavy lifting right now and with her formulas and the analysis with 850 employees. And so we can bring it back at the next elected officials meeting unless we need it sooner.
I think that's
We're
fine.
fine,
All right.
unless something comes up that we're pressed for time, but I don't anticipate that at this time.
And also what had been discussed in the past too is that employees on a performance plan, the elected officials have the discretion to not move them to the next step. So there is that built in, it's not an automatic thing. The elected officials have to determine if there's any employees that should not be given a raise.
Right, and that should be documented in their
Yes.
personnel files so we could defend it with
Yeah.
ICRIMP or
Right.
any other entity.
And I've been preaching
Legally.
documentation for 2 years now.
Yes, you have, thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Sylvia.
And in reference to the elected officials, we'll just bring back those numbers in April, just in this similar nature, leaving it with consideration to get you, the elected officials, to market and then market with COLA. So we'll bring that back the way it is.
So
Yes.
wage study is this, okay, that's the most recent study that was conducted. And when you say market salary with COLA, okay, I see what you're doing.
So what we would do is, based on the market study that we did in 2019 with adoption in fiscal year 20, we would make that your base pay,
And you're
whatever that
adjusting
salary
it?
is.
Go
We
ahead.
would make that your base pay plus add 2.1% for a COLA. That's what that's doing in those scenarios.
Sylvia, is that, even the wage study that was done, is that report available?
I can provide you with overall summaries, but the detail that shows each entity, I cannot just hand that over to you. I can meet with you and we can discuss it. Absolutely. But I can give you the documents we issued when we did the wage study so that you have it. We did the wage study in 2019. And then direction I had gotten from the board a while back was that we would do another wage study starting in fiscal year 22 with potential implementation in 23.
That's the
We
COLA.
did a COLA last year. There is a way to age data, but I don't know if that'd be the direction the board would want us to do.
Let me ask you a question real quick. I'm backing up a little bit. So when you show market salary based on wage study, that 135, is that based on the 2019 or is that 19 adjusted for the following 2 years?
That is the market rate of 2019. So
Okay.
even with the employees, that's the market rate, the schedule that we did for the
2000.
employees, and what we present to you today was based on the wage study from 2019. Now, we did adjust the scales of the sworn officer matrix and the general employee bands by 2%. For general employees, 1.8% for the sworn officers.
Okay, so where I'm coming from is I'm trying to understand the difference, which is approximately $18,000 between the wage study and the market salary plus COLA. Because if the COLA is 2% of 135,000 is like, I don't know, what is that, $3,500 or something? So what it looks to me like you're making an adjustment to the 135,000 and then adding the 2%.
Yes.
Is that correct?
2.1,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Yes.
And it's important to keep in mind with next year being an election year, if you raise the elected official salary to what they should be, we might get a better quality candidate. Not that you guys are not better. We might get some people willing to give up their day job for the money.
And take the risk of not getting reelected and being out of work for the rest of their lives.
Is that apples to apples, that are we basing the 135, whatever, the 2019 salary figures, is it apples to apples with where we should be? Or are we underscoring that?
That's a question for, go ahead, Sylvia.
So we would have to look at that again and look at what the market has done. We could age it and see, there's an aging formula you can do for salaries, and we could calculate that and see how it looks, but we're probably somewhat close. You know, if you're less than 5% off market, then they really don't consider that to be a bad thing. That in the industry, if you're less than 5% from market, you're considered basically within market. And that is based on the agencies that we used. So one of the things we'll have to identify when we do decide to do another wage study for fiscal year 23 is identify our market again.
Okay. Any other questions for Sylvia? Good job. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank everyone. Okay, then, can we move on to our final item, Town Halls and North Idaho Fair? Leslie?
Just another pitch. First town hall is March 31st, and if there's any other elected official that would like to, schedule one, that would be great. Steve is invited to mine because it touches on money, so he can choose to attend if he likes. And then North Idaho Fair. So let me know if you've got any departments that are interested so we can start a sign-up sheet. I don't want to wait until July to do this. I want to get it done here quickly because that way the booth can be put in place and all that stuff. So just a reminder, you can contact me or Nancy Jones.
Any questions? Okay. Public comment.
Does anybody on the phone have anything?
This is Jeff Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Anderson?
Okay, I don't know if this is time, but last night I heard something that kind of bothered me. Bill, Brooks, and Chris, I would like their opinion why they were against, the federal government of the Second Amendment takes that right away. They did not support it. I was wanting to know their reason why.
Did you hear the question? No. The gentleman is asking why we don't support the Second Amendment sanctuary.
I don't know. Basically, my reasoning, I'll go into it, it's very simple. It makes us using nullification to support Second Amendment rights, which we already have in Kootenai County. Everybody who is in charge agrees. The second thing is, if you were to pass that ordinance, my understanding is that it would nullify, eliminate all gun laws in Kootenai County. And we might have to come up with all our own gun laws, because there'd be nothing to preclude somebody from saying, I have a sawed-off shotgun that I just made, and I'm carrying it. Federal law says you can't, but you guys just said you can. So I think it opens up a whole bunch of things. Second Amendment is very important to me, and not something to be trifled with for political gain.
Is there something going on? Are you done? Yeah, sir, I'll give you my answer. This is Chris Fillios. A couple things. Number one, I think Commissioner Bill Brooks touched on it in this whole subject of nullification, which I don't believe necessarily will cut legal muster. That's point number one. Point number two, and I mentioned this at our meeting on Monday, is our proximity to Spokane, which has a rising criminal gang problem, and declaring us a sanctuary potentially creates a bigger problem for our sheriff. The other issue that I have is that there's currently, this was taken up back in 2016, and Idaho is actually considered a sanctuary state. Now, whether that would hold up legally is another matter. I guess the fourth response I would give you is there is a Senator Zito, who I believe is from a county in central Idaho, who is sponsoring similar legislation at the state level. And if this really should be done, if it's going to be done, if it's even warranted, because I think we already are, but it should be done at the state level, not at the county level. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
Okay, it's just, I've grown up here. I want to protect my kids, my grandkids. I have every right to have a firearm. And when you have a corrupt government, corrupt president, and they're trying to take our rights away, that is not all fair.
Okay. So your comment is well noted, sir. We'll indicate it. Thank you for your time. Anyone else?
Okay.
Okay, then. So it is now 9:57, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.